and implementing effective procedures. This webinar has been brought to you by Brake, the road safety charity, and thank you very much for everybody for attending. Today's webinar has kindly been sponsored by Mix Telematics, so I'd like to thank them for their support for this webinar, and also meaning that we can provide everything free for you to attend today. Also like to thank our speakers who were here from shortly, and hopefully you will get some tips and useful information from them all, especially ahead of Brake's flagship event, Road Safety Week, which will begin on Monday. My colleague Ellie Pearson will talk through more about Road Safety Week and how you can get involved with that. Once Ellie has spoken, we will hear from Steve Coffin from Mix Telematics, then Jim Chappell from EcoStar's Fleet Recognition Scheme. Then we will have two case studies, Duncan Lilly from Carey Worldwide Chauffeured Services and Graham Telfer from Gateshead Council. All attendees are on mute, and we would like to hear from you during the presentations. So if you have any questions at all, on the top right of your screen in your drop-down GoToWebinar menu, you should have a question box. If you have a question at all during the presentations, then please feel free to type your question into that box, and at the end of each presentation we can put questions to each presenter. So please type questions either during the presentation, or we will remind you at the end of each one. Alternatively, if you have any questions at the end of the webinar, we will pass them on to each presenter. So first of all, I would like to hand over to my colleague Ellie Pearson from Brake, who's going to talk to you a bit about Brake and Road Safety Week. Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you very much, Dave. Good morning, everyone. So as Dave has said, I'm going to be talking to you about our Road Safety Week, which takes place next week. The reason that we're running this webinar is to give you some ideas ahead of Road Safety Week about how you can get involved in the week, but also year-round eco-driving initiatives. So before we get on to Road Safety Week, I will tell you a little bit more about Brake for those of you who aren't overly familiar with us. We are the UK's national road safety charity. We were founded in 1995, so this year is actually our 20th anniversary. And we have two main aims. Firstly, to prevent road crashes. So we do that through education, campaigning, engagement and awareness raising activities. We campaign through the media, we lobby government. We also have our professional engagement team, which is all about working with fleet and road safety professionals to spread best practice. We have our community engagement team, which is all about going into schools and local communities and working with them on road safety. So that's the work we do to prevent road crashes. The other side of our work is supporting the victims of road crashes. So we operate a national helpline for anyone who's been bereaved or seriously injured in a road crash. We also supply literature for those groups and work very closely with the police and other support professionals in helping those people that have been affected. So that's who we are and what we do. We're a communications charity, so everything we do is all about research and then sharing best practice information to enable everyone to make our roads safer. So communications and engagement is central to everything we do here. Just a few of our initiatives there for you to see. As I mentioned, we'll be focusing on Road Safety Week in this webinar, but we do also run projects for victim support professionals. We run our Brake Fleet Safety Awards, which is recognising the best of the best in fleet safety initiatives, and we run Brake Professional, which is a membership scheme for fleet operators and road safety professionals. Road Safety Week is the UK's biggest road safety engagement event, so we hold it every year, focusing on different issues. So for instance, last year we focused on protecting vulnerable road users. We've also looked at mobile phone use and Go20 in the last few years. We're in our 18th year of Road Safety Week, so it's almost as old as Brake itself. So it's a very, very well established event. in the calendars of fleets, road safety professionals and other groups, so we get a lot of engagement. So you see that last year's figures, we had 10,000 schools, companies, individuals and community groups take part in the week overall. And of those 10,000, 1,640 were fleet operators and suppliers. So it is a very engaged group for us and one that we continue to work with. Just to give you an idea of the reach of Road Safety Week and the type and size of audience that we're reaching with our messaging, print and online media reached a potential audience of 44 million last year. Broadcast coverage reached a potential audience of 19 million. Tweets reached a potential audience of 2 million. And then we also had a lot of visits to our websites during the month as well. So all of those figures are taken from our evaluation report, and obviously after this year's Road Safety Week we'll produce similar figures. So if you are getting involved and want to find out afterwards about the size and scale of the week, those figures will be available. So that's last year's Road Safety Week. Oh, and 68% of UK police forces got involved as well. So as I say, they're a very involved group. Moving on to this year's Road Safety Week, the theme is Drive Less, Live More, which is, as I say, why we're running this webinar, so we can engage the fleet and road safety audiences with the overall theme. The date is 23rd to 29th November, so next week is the big week in terms of engagement and activities around the country. Although obviously we are not just wanting activity for a week, we're wanting people to think about and implement long-term change. So for those of you that are already getting involved next week or thinking about getting involved next week, that's absolutely wonderful. For those of you who, for whatever reason, aren't able to, we would like you to be taking these steps that we're going to talk about all year round. The message for Road Safety Week 2015 is making our streets safer and more pleasant by encouraging people to drive less and live more. So obviously we're talking to the general public here, we're talking about private car use. So we're encouraging everyone to see if they can reduce private car use. We do have a specific message for fleets as well. We recognise that fleet operators, distribution chains and so on can't just stop driving for the week. So what we're asking fleets to think about is how eco-friendly their vehicles are, their fuel, and also thinking about their journey planning and making that as efficient as possible in terms of sustainability. To be talking to their drivers about eco-driving, looking at things like SAFED training and making sure that they're aware of and using those eco-driving techniques. And where possible, encouraging employees to walk, cycle and take public transport. So where that might be a grey fleet or a company car fleet, it's maybe looking at scheduling in some more teleconferences or travelling to meetings by train rather than by car. Just little changes that can make a huge difference if everyone gets on board with them. And also talking about commuting, so how you get to work in the first place, whether that's, you know, if you're currently sitting in your car for half an hour to get to work in the morning when actually you could take the train or cycle. It's encouraging people to do that, again, wherever possible within reason. And the final side to this is recognising that actually cycling is growing in popularity. More people are commuting to work by bike now, and also people who are on foot. They are vulnerable groups, so if you are operating a fleet, whether it's cars, vans, trucks, being aware of those more vulnerable road users, again in terms of vehicle choice, the training and awareness that you give to your drivers, it's allowing and protecting those vulnerable road users to move about safely on the roads. So that's the key gist of this year's Road Safety Week. Website, in case any of you haven't been there yet, is roadsafetyweek.org.uk. For those of you that are active on Twitter, Twitter at the minute is a really great communication channel. Lots of people get involved, as you saw from the previous slide, with Road Safety Week through Twitter, just promoting the messages and signing up to be on board. So the hashtags that we'll be using are Road Safety Week and Drive Less, Live More. So some tools and guidance that we've got for you as part of Road Safety Week. These will be sent out to you after today's webinar, but just to make you aware of them, we have a gap analysis tool for employers. So this is really short. I think you'll see there 16 questions that you can answer, and based on your score you can see actually how you measure up in terms of your sustainability, and some quick tips for things that you can do quite easily to improve that. We've also got a more in-depth report, which again will circulate on sustainable travel plans for employers. So that looks at the benefits for you as an employer and also the benefits for your employees of implementing and supporting sustainable travel plans. So there are some quite useful tools just to help you get an idea of where you stand currently, and also give you some tips and ideas for things you can do around sustainability. We also have some posters and web banners. So as I mentioned, we've got slightly different messages for private car use and company drivers. So you see there two slightly different groups of posters, all of which are freely available online. And if you do go to the Road Safety Week website, you can register for a free action pack and you'll be sent all of these e-posters. So you've got posters with messaging for drivers, which are about the more general messages about road safety and about the levels of private car use in the country and how that links into obesity and general fitness. For companies, organisations that work drivers, we're looking at slightly more business-focused messages, so things around congestion, driving down business mileage, looking at alternative travel for meetings and so on. Again, these are all freely available. Obviously they're Road Safety Week resources, but again you can use them year-round for your campaigns. And we've also got the web banners there you'll see on the right. So even if you're not doing anything at all for Road Safety Week, if you just want to have get involved a little bit and push that messaging, support that messaging and show your support as an organisation for sustainable travel, using those web banners and getting involved on Twitter and Facebook and so on is a really great way to do that. And then the final resource that I just want to make you aware of is our interactive resource. So you see the hyperlink to the resource there. This is a really, really great tool for you to promote to your drivers and also potentially more widely. It's something that obviously drivers can go home and show their spouses and use with maybe teenage children who are learning to drive. It just goes through all of the different angles of this year's Road Safety Week messaging, so looking at carbon footprint, looking at inactivity and obesity, congestion, the cost of driving. So it's a really good, quick and easy thing that you can promote to drivers, employees, to help get those sustainable messages across. And then finally, again, whether you're getting involved in Road Safety Week or planning to do something within your own organisation, a few key things just to focus on in terms of promoting eco-driving and sustainable messaging: the content and the communication. So in terms of content, you need to make sure you're providing people with guidance and tools, as I say, free of charge, and obviously feel free to use Brake's resources. And also thinking about different types of messaging. So maybe you're going to put something out in your staff bulletin or in a one-off communication to your drivers, or promote infographics and images through Twitter. Maybe you have video resources that you could use with your drivers, putting up posters in driver restrooms and so on. So it's just thinking about different ways that you can communicate that message. You need to be consistent with your messaging over time. So again, Road Safety Week's a really great platform to launch some eco-driving or sustainability messaging, but it needs to continue beyond the week. Timing, so Road Safety Week is, with that being our focus this year, is a really, really great way to promote eco-driving and, as I say, a great kind of springboard to launch activities the year on. But there'll be other opportunities. So, for instance, Living Streets run a walk to work week each year. So there are other opportunities for you to tie in your messaging around wider awareness issues. And communication channels, so as we said before, just making sure you're communicating that message through as many different channels as possible is really important to achieving driver buy-in. And then the final thing from me is just to make you aware of some other break events that we have coming up. So you can see those on screen now. Mixture of free webinars like today's that will give you a shorter introduction to a topic, and then more in-depth seminars. Two in particular just to draw your attention to are our Fleet Safety Conference, which is an annual event that we run. That's going to be in May next year. Really, really great event. You get to hear from our previous year's Fleet Safety Award winners talking about the initiatives they've put in place and how they've gone about doing them. So it's a great learning opportunity. And also we will shortly be announcing the dates for our 2016 Fleet Safety Awards, deadline for entries, and when we'll be holding the event. Again, if you think you're already doing really, really great work, the awards are free to enter, and it's a really great way to gain some recognition from that work. You'll be hearing from Graham Telfer later in today's session, and he has won awards at last year's Fleet Safety Awards. So if you think that you can do better than Graham, we would love to see your entry once we've opened for entries. That's everything from me, so I will now hand you back over to Dave, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ellie. Hopefully you've got some great tips there on Break, what we do, and also the Road Safety Week as well. As I mentioned briefly before, or may not have mentioned, presentations will be made available at the end of today's webinar. So if you have any questions at all, you can just get in touch with us afterwards, but we will be sharing the presentations, and like we said, all that information that Ellie's been sharing there as well. So next on, we will move on now to Steve Coffin from MiX Telematics, who's going to give a quick presentation about MiX and also their involvement with Break. As I mentioned, they kindly sponsored today's webinar, so we look forward to hearing from them, and I'll hand over to Steve. Thanks very much, Steve.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Dave, and welcome everybody to the webinar this morning. Just a few introductory slides from me. As Dave said, I'm Steve Coffin. I'm the Marketing Operations Director for MiX Telematics Europe. I was keen to really explain why we feel there's a synergy between our business and the Break charity. We obviously have a relationship here and also in Australasia with Break, and we monitor more than 500,000 assets around the world, just to give a scale of our operation. So clearly MiX are a commercial organisation, and so we need to sell our solutions on a value proposition to our clients, which includes things like improving fleet utilisation and reducing the running costs of the business. And also, key focus area for us is to save clients money on fuel. So it does really leave you, can leave you asking, so what are the synergies then between Break and MiX, and why we're so keen to foster the relationship that we have and that we're very proud of? And I think the answer lies is there's a true safety element to what we do. We do focus on things like crash prevention and reduction, and an increasing focus on driver behaviour, and we do this because we're able to monitor a high number of events from a vehicle relating to driver behaviour and also the safety. And this varies from, at an entry level, we could just perhaps be monitoring whether a seatbelt is done up or whether a vehicle's driving with its headlights on at the right times, and that runs all the way through to, in certain hazardous environments, particularly in oil and gas, we do have a full journey management system where it's actually run by MiX, and MiX actually approve individual journeys within businesses. So whether the person has the right license, and they take into account where the vehicle's going and whether it's the right vehicle, and the weather conditions as well. And we actually make the calls on whether vehicles can actually move. So it's an all-encompassing, very broad spectrum of stuff that we go through, and it enables us to tailor it to suit individual requirements. I think Caries will speak this morning about the work that we've been doing with them recently, and hopefully that will give you a typical example in the UK where we work closely with our clients to deliver them from this broad spectrum what specifically will offer the best value benefits to themselves. We recognise that access to information is key. We're now positioned as firmly as a SaaS provider. That's why there's no photographs of boxes, black boxes with wires in this presentation. It's all about the data that's coming out the other side and the value of that data. And that's where we see our position now, is on providing the value through all the technology platforms that are available and continue to become available over time, from desktops all the way through to smartphones, and also able to provide information to individual drivers. We work very hard to engage with drivers to try and ensure that we see reductions in crashes, and we are very keen to continue following that path and believe that we add value through those solutions. So that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to give you a quick positioning on MIX, and at this point I'll hand you back to Dave.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Steve. As I mentioned before, if you do have any questions at all, we've had a couple come in, just technical questions, so I've responded to those individually, but if you have any questions at all, then do please feel free to use the question panel on your right-hand side. As Steve mentioned, we will be hearing from Duncan from Carey shortly, so that will hopefully give you a bit more insight as well. But yeah, thank you very much, Steve, for that, and again for MIX's continued support with Brake. So as I mentioned, we will now move on to Jim Chappell from EcoStar's Fleet Recognition Scheme, and I'll hand over to yourself, Jim. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put it on slideshow. Hopefully everyone can see that.
Fantastic. Yep. Thanks, Jim.
Right. Okay then. So it's a little bit about the EcoStars. It's a fleet recognition scheme. It's run across a number of regions across the UK, so it isn't a national scheme, just to make that absolutely clear. People are able to join it depending on whether they are operating closely within one of our scheme areas. They don't have to be physically based there, but they do actually have to have a presence, a commercial presence there. So sorry, but getting a bit too quick on the old mouse there. So it starts off in South Yorkshire, where they have 24 declared air quality management areas. It was conceived by people from both public health and air quality within 4 local authorities, and was part of what is the South Yorkshire Care for Air campaign. It received government funded through local transport planning, NHS Barnsley, and from DEFRA. Started in 2008 and was actually launched in 2009. And the first member was actually an organisation called Clipper Logistics, which you may or may not be familiar with. They're an extremely large logistics provider who always feature behind the scenes across a great number of retailers and wholesalers across the UK. So really, EcoStars stands for Efficient Cleaner Operations. It is a partnership between the 4 local authorities of South Yorkshire and the South Yorkshire Passenger Transport Executive, and is actually led by Barnsley Metropolitan Borough Council. And it is part of a toolkit of measures to tackle air quality. It doesn't pretend to be the only way that poor air quality in an urban area can be tackled, but it actually is one of the things that can be done by reducing an operator's carbon and other emission footprint. It's designed to be attractive to fleet operators, and in South Yorkshire there's over 115 members and over 8,500 vehicles actually involved. The real motivation is recognising that heavy-duty vehicles are significant emitters of traffic pollution, and there's a need to positively engage with heavy-duty vehicle community to reduce those emissions. It's about building trust and recognising best practice and reducing emissions further. It is a scheme that doesn't have barrier to economic activity, so we don't turn around and say if you want to be less polluting, then you've got to do less work. What we actually say is if you want to do work, there are ways of doing it which is more beneficial to the environment. I think it's early at this point to say that we find that through people's environmental performance, which is using all things such as telematics and driver behaviour and driver training, there is a direct link with safety. And we have instances of members who have made tremendous improvements on their safety by looking at their environmental behaviour, and indeed have saved a lot of money on insurance, for example. So how does it really work? Well, it is free to members who are in the local scheme area. We manage it on behalf of the local authorities or consortiums of local authorities for commercial vehicle fleets, which consists of trucks, vans, coaches and buses, although there are separately a few taxi schemes running in the UK at the moment. It recognises best practice in clean energy and cost-efficient operations. By best practice, it doesn't mean that we go in and discuss things with a set clipboard, a set tick box. It is about an open dialogue, an open discussion with organisations. For example, speed limiters for van fleets are great if those vans are actually moving out on the main trunk roads, but pretty much not required if it's just working within an urban environment, such as a local authority where perhaps the average usage is about 5 or 10 miles a day and no more. We give guidance and advice and providing on how future improvements can be achieved, both environmental and economic. As I said, there is always a direct safety link in that. So how does it work? Well, really what we do is we look at the fleet composition, we look at fuel management, we look at driver skills development, we look at how the vehicles are specified, as well as preventive maintenance. By that, is it the right vehicle for the right task? We find that it isn't unusual for companies, particularly those running van fleets, to get the biggest thing they think they might need one day, and to be removing a lot of thin air around. We look at IT support systems. We've obviously just had Mick telling us about telematics. We very much promote telematics and routing and scheduling as something that all commercial vehicle operators should be using nowadays, no longer something just for the rich and famous. And we look at actually having targeting performance, and monitoring how vehicles and the company is performing from a miles per gallon, from a distance-driven point of view. So we bundle all these particular things up, and we actually give people a star rating between 1 to 5, and then we also ask them if they can. We also encourage them to make things a little bit better by giving them a practical roadmap, which is basically an action plan on how they can improve their performance. So the benefit to the operator is actually it recognises that vehicle management, what they actually do. It provides them advice on how they can help improve performance. That's both from an air quality, greenhouse gases, and a financial point of view. It's an opportunity to raise their profile with other operators, with the local community, and they get their certificate. They get the roadmap, which is basically their action plan of operational and environmental efficiency. We maintain touch with them throughout their membership of the scheme, bearing in mind that schemes don't close, so we always are basically there to give guidance and advice throughout. Covers a large number of areas. Obviously started off in South Yorkshire, right down into Devon, Cornwall. We've just starting off a scheme in Manchester. We've got a couple of the London boroughs in the Midlands with Nottingham urban area, Staffordshire and Stoke, and quite a large presence in Scotland. The Scottish Government have got EcoStars as an air quality intervention of choice. That slide just basically gives you a bit of a mix of what our members are like. We've got everything from large organisations that many of you will recognise straight away, with a national presence, many there that have got a very large logistic presence and not necessarily in the public face, but to people in the industry very well known. I'm very proud of the fact that we do include a lot of very small local operators as well. And that's basically it. And we do have a very good interactive website, which will I encourage you to have a look at, and that gives everything pretty much a much more detailed description of how it works. That's pretty much it from me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Jim, for that presentation, and hopefully that's given you an insight into EcoStars and the recognition scheme there. It's a great scheme to get involved with, and hopefully if you want to find out more, there's contact details there, but also feel free to get in touch through Break, and we can pass on any details to Jim. If you have any questions for him at all, then do feel free to put those to him now, or like I say, we will be able to put questions at the end of the webinar. But it's great. Jim, I guess I just have a quick question. If somebody's listening in from a fleet and their local county isn't actually up there on those lists that you're already working with, is it something that they can maybe look to still get involved and maybe talk to their local authority to get to work with you?
I think the best thing is to have a conversation with ourselves, and we can take it forward, because you can become a member of EcoStars if you make a carry out regular business in that area. You don't actually have to have a physical depot in there. And yes, we have been talking through to local authorities using a little bit of, shall we say, operator influence. So yeah, contact us through the website or contact me directly through that, through either the phone or the email address, and we can certainly pick that up. Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And yeah, I would encourage anybody to look at this scheme and to get involved. And obviously, it's great advice that they are rolling out to help fleets. So thank you very much for your time this morning, Jim. So next, we will now move on to Duncan Lilly from Carey Worldwide Chauffeured Services. And Duncan's going to talk through what they've achieved at their business. Thank you very much, Duncan.
Thank you very much, Dave. So welcome, everyone. And may I say, on behalf of myself, Nabil, who's my deputy, who's also the Mixed Telematics Program Manager, it's a privilege to be able to take part in the webinar. So just to give you a bit of background about the company, Carey Worldwide Chauffeured Services. The company itself was founded in New York in 1921 today. Our global headquarters is in Washington, D.C., and we are the largest chauffeur drive company in the world. Our network currently encompasses over 1,000 cities in 70 countries. And we run a franchisee system of owned franchisees or subsidiaries, independent franchisees, and alliance partners. So as you can see, safe and secure driving and eco-driving is paramount to the success of our global operation. And we have a team in place that spent a lot of time ensuring that we do deliver, within the parameters of the program. Here in London, the company footprint was established in 1982, and we became part of Carey International in 1995. We're an owned subsidiary. We're also our European headquarters. Currently, we employ in London 300 plus full-time employees with an average length of 5.6 years service. We're based in Brentford, just to the west of London, and we've actually got a bespoke premises for the delivery of our service. Go back up. Okay. Types of services that we provide are what we call an as-directed service. That's with or without an itinerary, where clients are hiring vehicles from us, and that could be the E-Class, Mercedes, the S-Class, or the MPV on a half-day, daily basis for a period of time. Point-to-point services, many airport transfers. We're very heavily involved in corporate roadshows. Evening hours, that's taking clients to and from the theatres and dinner. During the summer periods, we spend a lot of time up in the Oxford, Cambridge, Stratford-upon-Avon, Cotswold areas on sightseeing tours, in particular with our American clients. We're involved in many meetings and events where we provide on-site coordination, and we also run airport operations. So as you can see, a very diverse service, and it's a very bespoke service, either to the actual account itself or to the individual users of our service. So, quite a challenging service to run. Chauffeurs, we've got a mix of male and female, and they're all registered with the Public Carriage Office there for full medical checks, security checks. We've got the vehicles equipped with XDA communications. We run a number of in-house training courses, including an introduction to Break, the Pledge to Drive Safely campaign, mixed telematics, and encouraging the chauffeurs to set courses such as ROSBER, the IAM course, and various other courses. And we do rely on integrity and confidentiality. So moving on to the mixed telematics and the fleet, we're currently running 203 Mercedes, 122 E-Class, 54 Estates, 15 S-Class, and 4 Vianos, or the V-Class as they're now known. We also provide coach services, which within itself, again, we work in conjunction with our coach suppliers with regards to eco driving and safe and secure driving. Our vehicles, we like to keep our vehicles under the 3 years of age bracket, with the average vehicle being around about 16 months. All registered with the Public Carriage Office, so we're tested every 6 months. The company is registered, the chauffeurs are registered, and obviously we run a comprehensive service program with Mercedes-Benz. We've got covert tracking devices fitted in all our vehicles. We've got telematics fitted, and we've also got speed limiters fitted. And this is all part of the eco driving program that we run, and the safe and secure driving program that we run as part of the global campaign. And obviously we have the relevant public liability in place. So the relationship with MiX Telematics, it's been a long-term relationship. We've had various tracking devices in our car, certainly for around about the 15-year mark now. However, we're always looking to improve our service both to the customer and, just as important, to the employee with regards to keeping them safe when they're on the road. Therefore, in 2014, we carried out our market research, and the end result of that research was that, as a group, from the general manager down through to the chauffeur training manager, it was agreed that MiX Telematics would be the ideal solution for us to sort of advance our safety and eco driving program to the next stage. Benefits we found in working in conjunction with MiX Telematics is that they've always been available for sound advice, including the selection of the actual devices themselves, the vehicle installations, and their support both during the installation period and post the installation period. And we were able to agree a 3-month trial period just to make sure that the benefits that were being promoted could actually be achieved by the company. So the trial period itself, we used a combination of 6 vehicles, 2 E-Class, 2 S-Class, and 2 Vianos. And MiX Telematics installed the system into the vehicles, and we didn't really engage with the chauffeurs initially because we wanted to observe through the data the driving patterns of those 6 chauffeurs. After a period of time, we then decided, right, now's the time to engage with the chauffeurs, and again MiX Telematics provided a drone to run the engagement program with the chauffeurs, and it was a very, very positive engagement session that we had with them. Obviously the chauffeurs took on board all the advice that was provided by Dron and MiX Telematics, and obviously they could see the advantages of installing MiX Telematics, and post the engagement sessions for us there was a noticeable improvement in the driving, because our main concern was when the chauffeurs were driving passenger on board, they were fine, but when they didn't have a passenger on board, their driving techniques seemed to change, which gave us a little bit of concern, of course. So the installation of the MiX Telematics system themselves, obviously as a very busy company, and just to give you an idea, we deliver somewhere in the region of 650 to 800 services a day, 24/7, and our quietest day is Saturday, where it drops down to about 550. So we need those vehicles on the road at all times. MiX Telematics, they worked with us and assisted us in creating a project plan. They allocated a project manager to us. They arranged the engineers to be on site, and I have to say, when they said the engineers were going to be on site, they were. Very, very professional approach to the installation of the units. They obviously understood the needs of our business, and therefore the vehicles were off the road for a minimum period of time, which is what we required. And from our perspective, even though Nabil is the project manager, there was minimum time spent by him on the actual project. Once we'd agreed the plan with MiX Telematics, they sort of took it over. We fed them the information on vehicles that would be in garages, dates, times, etc., and they completed the plan on time for us, which was very much appreciated. So during and after the installation then, ongoing, and that's still ongoing support from MiX Telematics, which is great. MiX Telematics staff that we've dealt with, they've all got full knowledge of the product, therefore they were always in a position to give us advice on how to implement a successful training program, how to conduct the driver engagement, and they've done that on our behalf. And they also provided training for report analysis, which was obviously important to the management team. The initial results then. Okay, why telematics? Well, as I mentioned earlier, we were always looking to improve and advance our program of a safe, secure, and eco-driving approach. We never really approached this from fuel savings or cost savings, because we know that that comes naturally anyway. So the results from the trial period showed a decrease in at-fault crashes, economically improved driving aligned with a reduction in fuel consumption, and we believe that's because of the introduction of the MIX telematics, the training that was given by MIX, obviously things like the introduction of the speed limiters and so forth. So we've seen the benefits of a reduction in fuel consumption and obviously cost savings without having to put that much effort into the program, because the main focus was always safe, secure and eco-driving. So the results so far, we've still got some work to do, although we're already seeing the benefits of the program through improved planning and all the above mentioned points. And we've now introduced a MIX telematics chauffeur coordinator, one of our senior chauffeurs that's recently moved into an office position. He now works with the chauffeurs on constantly monitoring and reminding them about the need to drive within the parameters of our safe, secure and eco-driving program. For us, as we go out and about and we promote the services to our client base, obviously it's great to be able to promote an improved safe driving policy. And for a lot of companies, be it the airlines, be it the corporate companies, it's certainly something that they look at and expect. The chauffeurs now understand the benefits of having the MIX telematics in the vehicle, and the incentive scheme that we've now got in place is working well. It's certainly improved the delivering of a safe driving policy to both our client base and the chauffeur, and we're starting already to see a reduction at-fault crashes. That's it, guys. So thank you very much for listening, and if you've got any questions, please feed them through the system.
Thank you very much, Duncan. And as he says, if you have any questions, then please feel free to type your question into the question box, and I will put them to Duncan. Just a quick couple of questions, I suppose. First of all, Duncan, if you can leave that screen up still, is you mentioned about kind of engagement from the customer. What kind of feedback have you had, or do you actually use this as an active tool to promote your kind of ethos and your approach to driving for you know, getting customers who want something a bit different when they are looking for a service?
Okay, so whatever we do, we tend to sound out the main customer base. Like, for example, when we introduce the speed limiters, you know, we look after Shell, Morgan Stanley, Emirates Airlines, Qantas Airlines, South African Airlines, for example. You know, we have discussions with them about our ideas, you know, and we look for feedback. And because obviously it's all about safe and secure driving and you know, driving in an eco-friendly manner, we always get very positive feedback from the clients, and they always encourage us to you know, go ahead with the project itself. You know, and because they see the benefits, because obviously they have a duty of care to their employees when we're delivering chauffeur drive services to them, and they see the benefits of the eco driving program, you know, the reduction in emissions and fuel consumption and so forth, and in particular on the safe and security side, because a lot of the clients they use us globally. You know, and if you're in the gas oil and energy industry, you know, we're talking locations like Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, going down to South America and so forth. So, you know, there is a major concern for the safety when they're traveling. So it's all very positive, really, from the client base, and it's something that they encourage us to do at all times.
And you talked about, obviously, engagement with your drivers as well. Did you have any at the beginning, did you have any kind of queries about, especially including the speedometers, about kind of getting to destinations on time and meeting deadlines? Because obviously as a business, you need to get people to airports, you need to get people to meetings on time, and if you don't, then obviously you've not fulfilled your service. But obviously, you want drivers to do that in a safe manner. How did you overcome those kind of barriers, where actually drivers in the past may have been tempted to kind of put their foot down?
Well, having sort of been with the company for 15 years now, we've always had a policy in place where we encourage the chauffeurs always to drive within the rules of the law, right? And therefore, when you encounter scenarios like the client comes out 45 minutes earlier and he asks the chauffeur to put his foot down, our response has always been, sir, madam, we will get you to your destination in the shortest possible time, working, within our safety parameters. So for most of the chauffeurs, they understood why we were introducing the telematics and the speed limiters. There was a small group of chauffeurs that raised a little bit concern about the speed limiters, but having said that, now that they see a reduction in crashes, for example, and it's sort of prompted them to improve their journey planning, i.e. they can no longer leave late and make up time on the road, they do feel that it is a program of safety that we've introduced. So those initial concerns went away pretty quickly, Nabil, didn't they? Mm-hmm. And it was a small group that raised concerns, to be quite honest.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much.
Yeah, I was going to say, most of our service is based in and around London. If you're getting up to 40 miles an hour on most days, that's probably the top speed that you're going to achieve anyway due to the traffic volumes.
Mm. No, thank you very much. And another question that's come in from Nicholas Trowler here. He says, how long was a vehicle out of service for fitment of the kit? So were your vehicles out of service for any period of time whilst whilst the kit was installed?
Okay, Nabil will obviously answer that, being the project manager, as he oversaw that aspect of the program.
Hi, morning all. Yeah, vehicles were off for a maximum of 2 hours, which was the E-Class Mercedes or S-Class, even Vianos. And the engineers did make up time, because once they got through a few vehicles, they were speeding up. They were taking less time to fit the car. So at the end, we were down to about an hour and 20 minutes each vehicle to be back on the road.
So quite a short period of time for to see the benefits further on. And also about you may not have an answer to this, but just a quick question really about the vehicle choice. Is that something that you've kind of looked at over a period of time, and have you looked at kind of hybrid vehicles or electric vehicles or anything like that for the future?
Yeah. Obviously, it's a premium service, and we've trialled numerous vehicles in the past through product sponsorship. And in London, the status of high-end chauffeur drive is Mercedes fleet, and that's our European fleet. We do run a number of Prius Pluses on a standard car service. We have looked at hybrids, and we've trialled the hybrids. I mean, currently they are quite expensive, and I think with the advancement of engine technology, sometimes it's quite difficult to justify that extra cost. But at the moment, we are looking at and waiting for the introduction of the Mercedes electric car, which we'll be interested in. And again, as the hybrid improves and the cost price becomes more acceptable, then we will no doubt be looking at it. But initially, they are quite an expensive vehicle to purchase.
All right, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. As I mentioned before, if you do have any questions for Duncan or Kerry at all, then do please feel free to put them through Break at the end of the webinar, and their presentation will be available after. So I'll now move on to our final speaker, who's Graham Telfer from Gateshead Council. He's Fleet Manager at Gateshead Council. Without giving him too much of an introduction, as my colleague Ellie Pearson mentioned earlier, Graham and Gateshead won our Eco Fleet Award at the Brake Fleet Safety Awards this year. So hopefully you're going to hear some of the procedures that they've put in place among his fleet that was that winning entry. And I'll pass over to yourself. Thanks, Graham. Hi Graham, we can't hear you at the moment.
Good morning, Dave. Have you got me now?
We have indeed. Brilliant. Thanks very much, Graham. I'll hand over to yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning about the initiatives that we've carried out with BRAKE and with our partners to improve our eco-fuel initiatives and our safe driving. I would like to begin with from an unusual perspective and why I became involved with saving fuel and the environment. And this is one particular reason. I first started climbing way back in the 70s when I was a teenager, and this slide illustrates how much the environment has changed over such a short period of time. If you have a look at the bottom right-hand slide there from the early 1900s, that's an illustration of the Murder Glass in the Alps. And as you can see, the glacier is quite forward in the photograph, and it comes down from the Turande, and the shroud in the background, a major climbing route in the Alps. And conversely, if you look over to the left, that's how it looks today. And if there's anything that really brought my attention to global warming, it was that stark change from what it was like in the early 1900s to the bottom center photograph when I first went there in the 70s to what it's like in 2015. As you can see, it's quite a dramatic change. And that had a real impact on me on how much the environment has changed in such a short period of time, 35 to 40 years, that the environment has been impacted seriously. So from that, through my employer, Gateshead Council, we got involved with the data from Kyoto, and we agreed to have a policy change in looking at our emissions and how we actually operated within the authority, our vehicles, and what other activities we carried out. And as you can see from this, we began this in the 90s, the early 90s. The governments throughout Europe decided that these basket of gases, 4 of which were directly related to vehicle emissions, carbon dioxide, which everyone knows about, methane, nitrous oxide, and sulfur. In the mid-90s, when we were involved, sulfur alone content in diesel and DERV and gas oil was at 2,000 parts per million, and now it's down to 0.1. So manufacturers have made a clear statement of not only just looking at the headline carbon dioxide, which government promoted, they also looked at the other basket of gases, which they were obviously legislated to change, but they've made significant changes and improvements in those emissions. So that Kyoto conference made a clear statement about where we were going to go with this. Again, as manufacturers, they made an absolute clear options for different types of vehicles that we could look at and develop. Electric vehicles, for instance, as soon as someone mentions the environment or what you're doing about your transport, electric vehicles are to the fore. And they have been introduced at a time when manufacturers have made a significant advance in engine technologies. 2- and 3-cylinder petrol engines can achieve up to 80 miles to the gallon and have a CO2 content now well below 100. We're now in a position that some cars have an advantage over diesel on their whole life costs in some operations. In addition to this, we've experienced fuel cells, range extenders, and the launch of the Ampera and other vehicles in the Mitsubishi plugged-in electric hybrid vehicles. They're all at the fore now and readily available. Therefore, justifying EV procurement when you can still look at better emission levels from petrol and diesel, they all have their applications in place. However, just recently, as we all know, that diesel has now become at the forefront of its particulate matter. Now, again, looking forward to Euro 6 and Euro 7, they have made phenomenal increase in engine technologies for particulate traps and exhaust gas recirculation. That's made huge advances, and then we're going on into Euro 7, where we'll be looking at lane control and advanced braking. However, with all those technologies that are available today, this is a recent survey from Fleet News Top 50 Operators, and this is the vehicle spread and the range of vehicles that we've actually taken up and adopted into our fleets. And this survey illustrated that clearly diesel is going to be around for some time. For all of the particulate matter is gone from 2,000 parts per million down to 0.01 now. There's still an issue over diesel, and going into London in the future taxi cabs won't be allowed after 2020. All new vehicles will have to be electric or other forms of power driven, which is hybrid, LPG or whatever. Considering Gateshead's initiative, we have integrated a number of initiatives into our fleet. Since the early 90s, we've both embraced both green fleet and safe driving. We were an early adopter of biodiesel and LPG. LPG, we ran about 200 vehicles in that program when the Energy Savings Trust awarded 75% towards the costs of those vehicles at the time. Conversely, manufacturers saw this coming, and they then improved the emissions from petrol and diesel, so the benefits of LPG were subsequently reduced because the emissions became on a par and then improved beyond what LPG could achieve. However, 20 years on again, LPG is making a comeback of this clean vehicle technology due to the engine improvements and fuel pump pressures from LPG. It's making a clear comeback. In addition to that, we've run a number of driver training initiatives using SAFED, and we employ our own in-house trainers. We have 4 driver trainers who take out we have 1,000 drivers. They carry out that training. They're not specifically employed on that role. They do post runs, fuel delivery. They do a number of other activities, and we fit this driver training in and around when it's required. We run a number of EVs and hybrids, stop-start, within our carpool electric vehicles in those. We have a comprehensive EV instructor. There's approximately 1,000 charging points throughout the region from Berwick down to Teesside now. And to achieve all of this, we have a number of partnerships also. To get to our eco-driving initiatives, it's not about going out and buying the expensive technologies and buying electric vehicles and doing the headline stuff. It's about the small businesses that we've engaged with in the past. We've encouraged driver initiatives, and the cheap things have really been what most people can achieve, and they represent some significant savings and reducing their carbon footprints simply by carrying out regular daily walk-around checks. Every time you take a vehicle over, you have a look around it to see if the lights are working, or if the tyres are inflated to the correct pressures, that the wheel alignment's correct, and ensuring preventive maintenance is carried out at the right dated time. It's not overlooked, so the engine performance drops off. We consider all our drivers are ambassadors, that what they do on the road represents Gateshead Council and the whole. We get rid of all the loads that aren't necessary on the vehicle, so anybody that's carrying in-cab equipment inside, if it's not needed, it's out. If people are carrying loads on the back of the vans or in the trucks or whatever, that's removed. So we constantly monitor that type of load and driver ability, so they ensure that they're carrying out their activities in the most economical method. And as the last speaker alluded, that the drivers aren't always accepting to this, but it's constant persuasion and re-evaluating what you do that really changes the mindset. And all of our damage, whether it's a wing mirror or a major impact, they're all recorded also. And our fuel savings, they have been achieved by the in-house driver training. We carry out comprehensive 45-minute driver training along with instruction on daily checks. We use all of a laptop or a small DVD player to do toolbox talks. Actually on the job, we go out and speak to the guys rather than bringing them into an office or into a training room. There's time and place for that, but our regular audit checks are done on-site utilising brakes, DVDs on the aftermath of accidents, and also we use the Freight Transport Association's DVDs to illustrate how to carry out a daily walk-round check comprehensively and effectively. All of the MPG data is fed back to the drivers and managers to ensure that the vehicles are operating in their most optimum efficient way. So we constantly monitor that, and any vehicles that fall below that mileage bracket or bandwidth, we bring them in and have a look at them and find out why the fuel emissions have dropped off or the fuel efficiency's dropped off. And all of our vehicles, whether they're a car-derived van or whether a 30-ton refuse vehicle, they're all restricted to 56 miles an hour. My argument for that is you can deliver a fridge from John O'Groats in a truck down to Land's End overnight. So there's no need for anyone to be doing 70 miles an hour. And for the distance and the time that's driving at that kind of speed, saves over is very, very marginal. Having carried out all these initiatives, this illustrates, going back to 2009, how our accident record has improved. There was a short blip during 2012 where we took in a comprehensive other service from a private contractor. We brought that back in-house, and there was a level of training to address. Again, it was like beginning the program again that which started in 2009 with these new drivers, and this can be illustrated. It's dropping off again. This illustrates the stop-start technology that we run on all of our 12 Mercedes vehicles. We also have Citroen minibuses with stop-start technology also. We run a common wheels program. We have about 15 Toyota Aygoes, the Nissan Leaf, and these cars. And this is all about getting staff out of their own personal cars and grey fleeting into these most economical cars, and then to address staff mileage also and to reduce the grey fleet. And when these vehicles are stood down after 5 o'clock, the general public can access them also. So it's better utilisation to get people out of lower, older, high emission vehicles also. We also have a photovoltaic charger at the Civic Centre. This charges directly our Mievs and Leaf vehicles that we have on site. And we also have a fast charger based on the Felon bypass. And these are all available to the public also to utilise. We've run these transit Smiths electric vehicles for since 2010 now, and we've done about 300,000 miles in these vehicles, and they've never run out of electricity. We've never had a problem with that. There has been issues with cables being damaged and not plugging them in correctly, but they're constantly readdressed. It's not something you can just park and forget. Anyone who comes to electric vehicle, the additional training needs to be fully implemented before you can hand the vehicle over and expect some significant returns in fuel savings. These are the electric charging posts. You don't have to go out and buy a Charge Master post if you're actually running from your own fleet depot. You can run a charging point like this, and it's back to a local meter, so we can find out how much our electricity is being utilised from that without the need of spending £8,000 to £10,000 on civils and installing a charging post. Obviously that's not the case if you're going onto public site. We also work in conjunction with the Energy Savings Trust, get access to their simulator to do EV driver training. We also have our own road respect team. They have a simulator which is predominantly for the younger drivers to encourage their safe and fuel efficient driving also, and we get a good response from those young people also. We're now looking at our fleet on our heavy goods vehicles. We run Euro 6, which most cars are that come out that you buy from the factory today are Euro 6. And if you look back to just what it was like when Euro 3 was out in the mid-90s, the particulate matter as illustrated here was at 2000, and at Euro 6 now, that's how much it's reduced. So there's been a phenomenal change in diesel fuel technology alone, just through the technology that's been introduced. And without doubt, the Euro 6 technology has caused us a number of problems. I won't shy away from that. We have EGR valves, DPF filters, AdBlue tank, and they in the past have been filled up with washer fluid instead of AdBlue. Those pumps are about £1,500, and we also have selective catalytic reduction equipment fitted, and that also pollutes that if you put water in instead of AdBlue. So that's been a whole sea of change that's come along in the last 5 years. That's been on some vehicles there we're maybe using 1 or 2 of those technologies, but to get the Euro 6 you've had to integrate all of those technologies on the engines that we operate within our fleet. So there's been additional costs in getting drivers trained and our own staff for the technical repairs on these vehicles. So yes, we are reducing the emissions, but it's not necessarily reflective in our cost saving as well. So we've got to be more astute how we actually do this. But Euro 6, Euro 7 is here to stay, and we have to adapt to a change to these new regulations. Having said that, from Euro 5, in the top of this graph here, these are some of our heavy goods vehicles that operate on, we're using Euro 5 and Euro 6. This isn't representative of the whole fleet, it's just a small range, because what this illustrates is that we were getting 3 and 3.5 miles to the gallon on some of our heavy vehicles, and now it's gone up to 5. We're a fleet that uses over 250,000 gallons of fuel a year, so that kind of fuel improvement makes a significant impact on our fuel costs and fuel savings. Also, if you look at the green graph below, that illustrates Euro 5 and Euro 6, and it illustrates how from Euro 5 to Euro 6 how much the CO2 has dropped again. So these technologies actually do work, and they do give you the improvement on vehicle emissions. We also have looked at a number of other transport alternatives to reduce our carbon footprint. We have a cycle to work scheme like a number of other local authorities and private businesses, where we give a grant towards or a loan towards buying a purchase and a bike, and utilising that to come to and from work. We encourage staff, rather than jumping in a car and driving to another office, if it's possible and it's economical way to do it, and it's not time consuming, to walk between the offices. All public transport, we have a metro system here and a comprehensive bus, like any other city or town in the country. We're well served with buses, so we have a bus pass scheme. So any member of staff, if they're going to meetings locally or around the area, they're encouraged to use the public transport. And similarly to this, supporting Brake and their slogans is to drive less, and teleconferencing like this type of event today is essential in reducing the unnecessarily miles to, if it's possible, rather than attending a meeting, to use this type of technology, which Brake should be commended on doing this. Yes, I have the national conference to attend, where there's a number of other activities going on, but conferences like we're adopting this morning, it's an ideal fit. We also control our grey fleet by introducing pool cars to get the grey fleet down, and we set mileage reduction targets also. Our carbon reduction, this is just a snapshot of what we've done since the 2009 and 10, and this illustrates some of the reductions that we've achieved, over 900 tonnes since 2008. We also use telematics to a degree on some vehicles, and rather than giving you loads of information after you've listened to Mick's their comprehensive presentation, speak briefly about, we use Ashford's Lightfoot for our driver behaviour on their vans. We also use a BARTEC system for our route optimisation, because refuse vehicles and gripping vehicles are perhaps the largest vehicles that attend where people live on a daily basis on residential areas. So we want to minimise the amount of time that they're in that area, so we use BARTEC, which is a route optimisation program, and that gets us in and out of those areas in the most economical and quickest way possible. We also have telematics for our lone workers who go out of the area, or they may be called out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and we want to know where they're at. So there's various different mixes of and types of tracking and telematics that you can fully utilize and get best fit for your business before you launch in. We also have found that in some telematics programs there's an absolute flood of data with the local authority cutbacks and austerity measures. We don't have the staff now to wade through, so we just cherry pick the data that's most relevant to our initiatives. We monitor absolutely every vehicle's fuel consumption across the fleet, over 500 vehicles. We monitor that absolutely closely so we can ensure they're running in the most efficient manner, and this is an example of that. And we also get the CO2 emissions from each of those vehicles based on the amount of fuel they've used for that period. Again, this can be provided by, for instance, Mixed Travel would be able to give you that data, no problem, within their program. Just press on through this, our Safer Driver program, because safer driving has an absolute fit with eco driving also, because if you improve your driving safety, then you have a knock-on effect with running a green fleet also. So we have a comprehensive driver training program, monitor all the accident records. We have, as referred to as fuel management system. We have all these driver trainers, and we vigorously monitor that. We also have a mobile training unit. This is from our Road Respect team. They target generally the young driver groups to encourage them to be more fuel-efficient drivers and to be more safe, because they are the most vulnerable target of drivers on the road. So to keep pace with the technology, if you're a Luddite like me, you can actually wear this head-up gear now, and they sit in the van, or they can operate all of the driving equipment outside of the vehicle also, and it's a reality driving experience. Generally, the driving is peripheral to the job, so we've had to create this accident-free culture and include all our drivers in this comprehensive training program also, and we constantly reappraise it. We have a no-blame culture. All of our drivers are constantly reminded on zero tolerance on speeding, seatbelts, mobile use. We have all of these poster campaigns throughout the depot, and supporting also Break. They have a comprehensive, freely available on Fleet Forum, driver initiatives on poster campaigns on driving better styles, as was alluded to by Elliot earlier on. We utilise all of those. Our policy refers to all of these issues here, and we constantly reappraise and reaffirm what we're actually doing. As I said, the poster campaigns look at what we do with Brake, the Driver Standards Agency, Highways England. We look at their weather forecasts and what road closures. That data is all available. They give us safe driving tips on how to behave when you're following a gritter on a 3-lane motorway. It's simple as that, rather than trying to overtake. Following it for 40 miles an hour for 3 miles or so, how much does that put on your time? Highways England gives you all that on their website. We utilise all our in-house publications to get out to other drivers and other grey fleet operators. And we carry out all of this and quality control it through having independent audits. We also fully utilise all of Brake's DVDs, which are on their website, and they don't concentrate on the accident of the vehicle or the collision, sorry, of the vehicle. They look at the aftermath and what's left behind, and they've been fortunate for very brave statements made by people who have come forward and lost a relative or a friend who's been involved in an accident, and when you listen to their statement, it changes the mindset of even the most hardened driver who's unwilling to change. All of this, we use this for Road Safety GB, which is a local authority-based organisation. We use Highways England, as I've said, and who give details on road conditions. And these are some of the statements that we get from drivers when we first started to adopt. As the last speaker said, some guys are resistant to change. We've had statements in the past from school teachers, I can't get in an outside lane when a minibus at that kind of speed. All of these have had to be addressed very vigorously to change their attitude. Going forward, this is bringing my presentation to a conclusion, we look to become a member of the low carbon reduction scheme in our area. It's very similar to the last speaker's initiative. They need to be commended because you have to have a benchmark to set about what you're doing. It's a good scheme in that these carbon reduction schemes are your way of demonstrating to others that you're making some changes. And as I said, it's not about buying expensive technologies. It's doing some of the simple things like slowing down, not revving the engine, getting the weight out of the vehicle, only doing journeys that are necessary, but being able to demonstrate that to these people, and then you will achieve 5 stars without the necessity to go out and buy expensive technologies. We're also looking to, in the process of being audited by the Freight Transport Association to join their Van Excellence scheme. We also put our fitters through a technician qualification, and we're also going along with FORS at the moment. That's a Freight Operators Recognition Scheme. Our partners in Green Fleet have been Cenex, OLEV, Joint Cities, and Charge Your Car over the last 10 to 15 years. And we're working with Intelligent Energy at the moment on developing a hydrogen range extender on electric vehicles also. And importantly, we work with Brake and others on our safe driving scheme and use FTA for quality control inspections and our own management team to ensure compliance. And I'd just like to thank you very much for your attention and the opportunity to speak to you about our initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Graham, and thank you very much for such a detailed presentation. And as I mentioned before, if you have any questions at all for Graham, then please feel free to put those questions to him now using the question box. And yeah, whilst you keep that slide up there, Graham, I guess a quick question from our point of view, obviously very in-depth there, from vehicles through technology through to driver behaviour, driver training, bringing it all together, and there's lots there to take on board. I guess really, as you mentioned there, about cost really, obviously you had to invest a lot in some of the technologies and everything. Have you ever had difficulty kind of justifying that, or have you managed to prove, well, actually the outcomes will be much more beneficial? Because obviously as a local authority, your budgets are probably much tighter than a lot of other fleets.
That's absolutely correct. But what I've done in the past is been constantly aware of any government grants that have become available, and working in partnerships with other groups. One of the major problems with adopting electric vehicles now, they do have a place. If you want to drive 500 miles a day, an electric vehicle isn't for you if you want to do it in a set time over 8 hours. But they're ideally suited to our environment, our place of work, 50 miles a day. We have about 15 electric vehicles, cars, supplemented with vans also. But technology's moved on so quickly in that now petrol vehicles are, I would never have thought I would have said this 5 or 10 years ago, that petrol now has a place, because you can buy a Toyota Aygo or a Fiesta van or a Vauxhall Corsa van from made petrol, and that will give you a return of up to 60 miles to the gallon in some instances. That was what was achievable years ago by diesel only. And when you consider the total cost of ownership, when you pay £9,000 for a van, you can buy a lot of fuel for £2,000 less buying a petrol vehicle. So it may not fit every option, but the clear decision of in the past of just going ahead and buying diesel is no longer the case. But only 5 years ago, to buy a Nissan Leaf was in the region of £30,000. It's now down to 15. So there is that opportunity. If you do the sums or the total cost of ownership, then there's the opportunity to do that.
And as you mentioned now, I guess it is a case of looking for grants and other money that is available for organisations to try and meet these EU standards that we're all struggling to try and reach.
That's absolutely correct. But again, those grants have reduced significantly also in the last 3 to 4 years. But you've just got to join partnerships and join these type of organisations to be aware and network with other groups to ensure that when things do come up, you're thereabouts within a shout of taking part in them.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Graham, and hopefully you've found that presentation useful. And like I say, I know there's a lot of detail there to go through. So the presentations will be shared after this webinar, and you will be able to see these presentations and a recording. So just to conclude really from today, thank you very much everybody for attending. Up on your screen now just some of the events which Ellie mentioned earlier. So there's some other free webinars coming up. Our pledge campaign training, which Kerry actually mentioned earlier, coming up next week during Road Safety Week. Obviously we would encourage you to get involved, sign up, support, do what you can to promote our Road Safety Week next week, and let us know, really, keep in touch, let us know at the Brake team what you're doing, and it'd be great for us to be able to support you. And also our big conference again in May, and our Fleet Safety Awards we will be announcing soon. So hopefully if you feel that you are somewhere close to improving standards and tangible results within your business, then it'd be great to hear from you for the awards. So I'd like to thank all of our speakers again for giving up their time this morning. Hopefully there's been something useful from all of them for you and your business to take forward. Big thank you also to Mix Telematics, not only for their continual support at Break, but also for their funding of this particular webinar and support. So we will be sending materials to you shortly, and thank you very much for listening, and hopefully we will see or hear from you at one of our events soon. Thank you.